Hi guys, this video is going to address the challenge of what happened on Easter. Let me begin by introducing the simple and reasonable conditions of the inquiry. Reading from the Gospels of the New Testament derive a simple chronological narrative of the events between the resurrection and the ascension. Since the claim of the resurrection is the basis of the Christian faith, we should look at the biblical Word of God regarding this story and see if the evidence presents us with the literal truth of what happened. Since the subject of the empty tomb is so huge and well debated, I am only going to address the biblical record of events in the books of Matthew 28, Mark 16, Luke 24, and John 20 and 21. Also, I will be referencing Acts 1 and Paul's tiny version of the story. After a quick reading of the scriptures, I decided the logical way to approach the task was to capture the events in an Excel spreadsheet. It took only a few entries in the spreadsheet to realize that a simple narrative of a timeline of events was improbable. Being persistent, I go ahead and complete the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet data shows why the few people who have attempted this challenge have failed. In the case of my brother, he did not even attempt it. An online apologist sent me his harmony of the events. His explanation included events that could have happened in any order and chose to pick particular events to explain, therefore not keeping with the terms of the challenge. The first problem, or biblical difficulty, was trying to establish the starting point of the timeline. Right away, we see that there is disagreement between the four books regarding the time of day the women came to the tomb. The apologist avoided the contradiction by stating that when the Sabbath was over. The next obvious problem is how many women came to the tomb and who were they? Matthew says 2, Mark says 3, Luke 4, and John only 1. The story so far is sometime in the early morning some women came to the tomb, some had spices, and some were there to observe. Other questions that arise: was the tomb open when they arrived? Was there an earthquake? We can see that Matthew loses with a 3-to-1 vote on both of these questions. The only thing that all four books agree upon is that there was an empty tomb. This is just the tip of the iceberg. The inconsistencies, contradictions, and confusion are throughout the remaining storyline after the resurrection. The records of his sightings, how long he remained on earth, and where he ascended into heaven are impossible to reconcile. 200 years ago, Thomas Paine recognized the discrepancies and stated, "The disagreement of the parts of a story proves the whole cannot be true." Of course, this confusion does not prove that the resurrection did not happen. However, if the authors of the scriptures were inspired by an omniscient, omnipotent deity while they were writing their reports, there wouldn't be any inconsistencies. The biblical record is unreliable. Considering the story of Jesus, Christianity hangs by a very thin thread. To recap, we have God coming upon a teenage virgin, a birth on December 25th, some 30 years later a death on Friday, an empty tomb on Sunday, and various sightings at various places of the Good Shepherd. God help us.